Hi, everyone. This is Scott Nybakken for Dynamite Comics, and I'm here again with author Ed Brisson to talk about his exciting new series coming in January, the long-awaited return of the Silverhawks. Ed, thanks for joining us on the channel.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, Silverhawks was an animated show in the mid '80s that was produced by Rankin Bass, who were also the producers of Thundercats, and the two shows also shared several voice actors in common. We already covered a lot of the Thundercats ground when we talked about your Apex special that's coming in December. But were you a fan of Silverhawks as well back in the day? And if so, how did the two compare? Did you have a favorite?
So yeah, I was a big fan of Silverhawks. And I know I've talked about this in other interviews, but like the second that Dynamite started doing the Thundercats books, I was pestering Declan, who's a friend of mine, to find out when there was going to be a Silverhawks book. First time I talked to Nate for doing Apex, I think the first question I asked him, when are you going to do Silverhawks? So yeah, I was a big fan of Silverhawks. I had a lot of the toys. I think I had more Silverhawks toys than I did Thundercats toys. And in terms of favorite, that's tough, man. It's like trying to, it's asking me to pick, whether I like pizza or Thai food more, right? It depends. Like I love them both equally for different reasons. But the thing I like right now about Silvercats for my own sensibilities or Silverhawks, I'm going to keep doing that. I'm going to say Silvercats, and I'm going to say Thunderhawks, and I apologize. But with the Silverhawks, the thing I really like about it is it's essentially like a space crime story, right? That's they're kind of intergalactic cops. Monstar, the bad dude in this, he's an intergalactic mobster. With the crime cartel working underneath of him, doing all sorts of shady business. So there's something about that I really like. I'm a really big crime fan. We've been kind of approaching this relaunch of the series as like Untouchables in space, and so for me, that's the thing I love. Crime is my bread and butter.
Yeah, and I think like the large cast of characters that Silverhawks has is, I think, one of its best features. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you're going to do with them. You touched on some of the names already, but could you give us a brief summary of who the lead heroes and villains are, and what they're going to be doing or what the focus will be in the first story arc?
So our first, like on the Silverhawk side, we have like Stargazer, who is the commander of the original series. He's doesn't have wings. He's not flying with the team. He's kind of like he's the guy behind the mic, right? He's the guy on the in the headquarters, shutting commands. He's a sort of this grizzled vet. He's tangled with Monstar before. In a book, we kind of touch on more than touch on. We sort of explain and really dive into this idea that he was part of a similar program about 100 years previous. Pardon me. That helped put Monstar behind bars. And then we've got, Quicksilver is our sort of leader of the team, same as cartoon. He's the guy who was, in our book, we're going to sort of dive a bit more into like what that means to be the leader, what the weight of that is when you have a whole team of people relying on you to get home safely at the end of every day or mission. We've got Bluegrass, everyone's favorite guitar strumming cowboy. We have Steel Will and Steelheart, which are a brother and sister duo from the original. They're in the original cartoon. They have sort of a psychic bond, so if one of them feels pain, the other feels it as well. We've got Copper Kid, who is maybe going to be a bit more mischievous, a little bit more. I don't want to say it's like a moody teenager, but he's going to be a bit more like teen-like, I think, than what he was in the original. In the original, he was kind of the comic relief a bit, a little bit of just kind of this bright-eyed child, and we're not losing that, but we're giving him, a little bit more to do. And we've got Hot Wing, who came into the original series, I think about halfway through the first and only season of the show. So he's a character who's sort of a bit magic based, a little bit more mixing a little bit more elements of fantasy and sci-fi.
Mm.
We're bringing him into the original team. So in our book, he's part of the original team. He's there almost from day one. And then we have Tallyhawk, who we'll get into. Fans are going to have to wait a little bit to see Tallyhawk, but Tallyhawk's going to be there. And so before I get into the villains, the whole thrust of what our first arc is really about is sort of assembling the Silverhawks. In the cartoon, the Silverhawks are kind of assembled in the first episode, but we don't get to see really what they were like before. We don't, it's an adventure of the episode sort of series, the cartoon. It's great. It's a lot of fun, but there's not a lot of depth to the characters. You don't really get into the backstory, who they are, where they came from. And so our series, the first arc, we're really going to sort of do that. We're going to spend some time with each character as they're sort of recruited to be on the Silverhawks. So we're not starting with the Silverhawks in place with issue 1. It's not until issue 3, I think, that we have the Silverhawks kind of fully together. We want to spend that time, give a little bit of backstory, really sort of give each character a moment before they kind of come together as a team. And that part of it's a lot of fun. And then we're getting into a little bit more of the history of Monstar's reign of terror on Bedlama from like 100 years previous. Stargazer's old team, which consists of Condor, who was also on the old TV series, but we're introducing, I believe, 4 other characters who were part of his crew from back in the day, and they're sort of, in a lot of ways, like the proto Silverhawks. They were like their earlier, clunkier, now outdated version of the Silverhawks. So that has been a lot of fun to come up with that team and sort of show who they are and what this world is. And on the bad guy side, we've got Monstar, who's always kind of the star of the show. We've got Molecular, who I think
That's my favorite villain name, by the way, Molecular.
It is my least favorite name to type repeatedly because
yeah, you need to make a macro for that.
Yeah, it's spelled MOLEC-U-LAR, and I actually had to set up like a hotkey for it because it was driving me insane trying to type that all the time. Molecular is a lot of fun as a character. We've got Hardware, we've got Melodia, Poker Face, who's one of my favorites from the original series, Windhammer, Mumbo Jumbo, and Buzzsaw. So we're doing like a big tour, but again, not everyone's going to be there right at once. We're trying to have even the villains are going to have their own moments, rather than being like this sort of like team that just shows up fully formed immediately. So there's a lot going on in this first arc, but I think we're like sort of slowly building and really not rushing it, but also it's going to have all that sort of excitement that people I think are looking for from a Silverhawks book.
Excellent. Yeah, and with the Thundercats and the Apex titles, you and Declan have brought a lot of depth to the characters into the world of Thundercats, while still keeping true to the spirit of the original show. Are you taking a similar approach to Silverhawks, and what are some of the narrative differences between the two?
So yeah, I kind of touch on it a bit, but we're definitely expanding on on each of the characters and their stories. We're hopefully making them feel a bit more well-rounded as characters, giving them more depth. We're starting, we're going to see a lot of the locations that were kind of talked about it on the Silverhawks cartoon, but never really shown. We don't really show or see Bedlama in any sort of real way in the cartoon, and we're starting on Bedlama in the comic. So in terms of narrative differences between the two, I think Thundercats it's got its roots in fantasy and magic and all that sort of stuff, and so I think that the big difference is Silverhawks are going to feel it's going to have it's a crime book, I already mentioned earlier. It's Untouchables in space. and we're really trying to sort of ground it in that sort of world of crime and make that seem real, like like a Monstar is in a way our Al Capone, but we're not losing sight of the fact that he's this whatever 8 foot tall, hairy, uh, red and black space monster. We're trying to like really find that balance between the two, which is tough, but that's been part of the fun of writing it is figuring that out.
Yeah, and the artist for the series is George Cambadeas, who's been doing stellar work on our Gargoyles and Hercules titles. How is he doing so far on Silverhawks, which presumably has a wealth of high tech details as well as a lot of highly distinct and shiny costumes?
Yeah, it's been incredible. We did not redesigns
Hmm.
so much as we did like a polish on the characters, like kind of like bring them up to sort of what we would hope to see in more modern day stuff. There's a couple, minor changes here and there, and he's been really great at he's great for really sort of kinetic storytelling. His work's got that vibrancy and energy to it, but the moments that we need to be grounded and to be real, he's kind of just nailing it. It's been incredible.
And finally, and like you mentioned, one of these a little earlier. One of the signature elements of Silverhawks is their flock of animal cyborg partners, the Fighting Hawks. When can we expect to be seeing some of them?
I think we see Tallyhawk right around the same time that the team comes together. And so we're gonna start. I think with the toy line, everybody got their own sidekick. Um, we're just so it's just gonna be Tallyhawk at first. I don't want to get too crazy. We're already introducing like a lot of elements, and I don't want to overdo it. I don't want to drown people in
Yeah.
new characters, new stuff, even if they're existing. So for right now, we're just gonna stick with the OG Tallyhawk. He's gonna be there, and then we'll see how things go moving forward.
I think we're all looking forward to this. Ed, thanks for joining us on your Wings of Silver, and thanks to
Awesome.
everyone for watching.
All right,
Uh,
thanks a lot.
yeah, the first issue of Silverhawks will be in stores in January, so make sure that you pre-order it now. And be sure to follow Dynamite Comics on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X to hear more about all of our upcoming releases. See you soon.